Have you ever fallen for someone who is wonderful and they seem so perfect and the physical chemistry feels insane, only to wake up a few months or a year later and begin to wonder why now everything feels so gross? They're not valuing you. You don't feel appreciated. And maybe sometimes you find out that they're using you. And sometimes it feels like they don't even treat you like an actual human being. And yet, you can't let go. You can't let go during the relationship, and you can't let go even after the breakup. I mean, have you ever had someone make you feel like you don't exist while simultaneously you also feel like if you didn't have them in your life, you wouldn't survive? Hello, friends. My name is Maria, and I understand what it feels like to be confused of how a relationship that was so great got to be so gross. And if, like me, you struggle with letting go of crappy second-rate relationships, then grab that bottle of nail polish and let's talk. People who have a hard time letting go of a toxic ex typically always say the same sorts of things. And one of the big ones is, it was the best bedroom chemistry they have ever had. It can be so powerful that we actually feel like we are physically withdrawing from those chemicals. And while I have experienced this sort of thing myself, I can tell you honestly that when I look back, it was never worth it. It cost too much. I know as a viewer of this channel, when you love someone, you give them your all. And when I was with someone in those intimate moments, someone that I was crazy about romantically, I gave them my all. Over the years, I've thought about some of those moments. You know, you're touching their face, you're touching their chest, you're kissing them, you are loving them, and it all feels so powerful. But it's because you are putting all of the power into it. Really think about it. If they were giving just as much back to you physically and emotionally, the relationship or the breakup wouldn't be the way that it is now. Personally, for me as a woman, I had a very hard time wrapping my head around the idea that a man who could love me physically, he didn't necessarily love me on that same level emotionally. And it's because in those moments with them, it's so confusing and it feels like they are in it just as heavy as you are. But really take a moment and ask yourself, does this person show a consistent pattern of going all into the relationship just as much as you are outside of the bedroom? And you might ask, well, I mean, you did have some good times, so why didn't it feel worth it? Well, you know the answer to that question. They have a fun memory, but you never got what you ultimately wanted, which was them. Your intention was never to set out and sleep with someone for 3 months or 8 months just for them to turn around and leave. You wanted them to be a part of your life. I once read a meme that said, don't be sad the relationship ended. Be glad that it ever even happened. And I believe what that meme was trying to say was, hey, remember the good times. I don't particularly like this meme because while I don't regret every relationship that's come into my life, I firmly believe there were some relationships where I was 100% being used and I was not better off for having them. I believe I got into them because of where I was at in my life and with my own mental health. And I was also at a point where I believed that nagging at someone to treat me with basic human decency was normal in a relationship. It's not. You should never have to ask someone to please treat you with basic respect. And I don't mean like if you guys had an argument and you're like, hey, can we please talk about what happened this morning? I mean, if you find yourself asking, hey, can you please not walk out of the room while I'm talking to you? Please stop calling me names. Why don't you ever answer my text messages? And of course, the one we all know and love. Can you please stop ignoring me? It hurts my feelings. My God, I have never regressed harder emotionally in my entire life than when I was discarded out of nowhere. And my pleas to have a conversation about the breakup were completely ignored by a dismissive avoidant who I thought was my friend, who I cared about, and that I loved. Everything positive I felt about myself was gone. Anything I had ever done or built for myself felt like it shrunk down to nothing. None of it counted for anything anymore. I felt smaller than small. And that experience had me going back out into the dating world feeling like damaged goods. I wasn't really aware of it at the time, but looking back, I definitely had that energy of please pay attention to me and thank you for agreeing to take time out of your day to meet me out on a date. Oh my gosh, one of the first guys I ever tried to date after my discard, I remember being on that date thinking, this guy, he's got to work out because no one else is going to want me. I'm getting older. This is what traumatic relationships and breakups with sick people do to you. It's a total mind F. It is not reality. We have lost our grip on reality. Plus, after being brutally discarded, not yet having learned how to center myself and love myself enough to know that I would be okay, I let myself go. I stopped taking care of my health and my looks completely. And this happens when we get to a point in our life where we believe the other person matters more than we do. And that can add to a scarcity mindset because not only is it hard enough not to feel a little unattractive after you've been snubbed or dumped, if you stop taking care of yourself completely, it's even harder to look in the mirror and find yourself attractive. And while I refuse to sit here and say that when it comes to attraction, looks don't matter, I'd also like to say, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also need to take care of the inner half. Because in the end, looks are only one piece of a larger picture, and you will know this when your picture begins to unfold. You get some time away from your ex, you get a little clarity, and you look back, and suddenly they don't look so hot anymore. You remember how it all got so gross, and yet we can't let them go because the thought of being alone with ourselves, it feels so gray. It feels so boring, especially compared to the fireworks when things were awesome at the beginning, and even compared to the drama of trying to get them back after they dumped or discarded you. Getting an ex back, what an enormous illusion of action. And I am not saying that exes never come back. All I'm saying is you can't get anyone to do anything. And I am telling you, once you get past this, and you will be grateful to whatever higher power you believe in, that this person was taken out of your life. I believe my ex was taken out of my life because I was meant for something so much more. And while I do understand a lot of us, we've all had those thoughts. If my ex could just fill in the blank, everything would be wonderful. Yeah, it certainly could be. But if they cannot do that one thing, or they flat out refuse to do it, then the relationship actually can't be. And maybe that's not the person who was meant for you. And I'll bet, even though right now you might not be able to see it, you were meant for so much more. Sometimes in the thick of a breakup, we feel like having our ex come back would be a dream come true. Hey, sometimes it is. People break up and get back together all the time. However, if this person has already proved they don't care about your feelings, I would be careful what you wish for when it comes to getting a borderline narcissist and avoidant back into your life. You know, the kind of people who jerk you around or suddenly go cold when you express sadness when they have disappointed you again. A couple of weeks ago, I had a video from a channel member who I called Rick. Now, Rick and I have had an encouragement phone session together, and he told me that now that some time has passed, Even though the breakup still stings, he considers himself lucky that his ex didn't turn out to be one of those women who keeps coming back. She's not constantly yanking his chain, and it has allowed him to focus on the already tough job of healing. I'm telling you this because I know we go through a phase where no one can convince us of anything, and we would do anything to get our ex back in our life. And I read in the comments all the time of men saying, avoidant women never come back. I wouldn't say never, and I don't have the statistics, but if I were a betting gal, I would bet that men, even avoidant men, might have the tendency to come back a little more than avoidant women. Because I feel as women, we get more offers of attention. There is no shortage of men volunteering to be the next distraction for an avoidant woman looking to avoid taking any accountability or reflect on any of the destruction that she may have caused in her last relationship. She can hop from one relationship to another for years if she chooses, and I've never been a man, but I feel like men just don't get as many offers of companionship. And like I said, that's just my perspective from where I grew up. But here's the thing, just because you can monkey branch from one relationship to another, it doesn't mean you're having a good time. Even if our ex was a crappy person, we get so upset when they break up with us and immediately begin dating someone else. And I gotta say, so what? Because wherever they go, there they are. They were a toxic, unhappy person when they were with you, and they have not changed. Maybe you feel used. That's the worst. Like they were using you as a placeholder before they went off and met Joe Schmo. But don't be jealous of Joe. Take a breath and realize that Joe is now dating someone who has no problem using and discarding other human beings. So Joe hasn't really won anything. And by the way, you can date people who have had trauma and they are perfectly capable of treating you well, instead of using it as an excuse to mistreat everyone who has the nerve to try to care about them and get close to them. But you will have more clarity on this when you get a little space and a little oxygen from this whole situation. But I do want to add that although I said I believe women get more offers of companionship, if you are a woman trapped in a scarcity mindset, you can accidentally become a prisoner of a crappy relationship. My entire dating career, I was almost never alone, and yet I always felt, even when I was being mistreated, I was just terrified that if I ever left this clown, there would never be anyone else. It was all made up in my head, and yet it felt real enough to keep me from walking out on bad relationships, to go find relationships that were more fulfilling with people who actually treated me with respect. There is so much confusion in love because not any one person is so black and white. There is a reason we fell in love with them. And while we may never find anyone else just like them, it doesn't mean we will never find anyone else. That is an attachment wound lying to you. So what do? You have to start calling it out. When someone texts something awful to you, or they're ignoring you, or someone hangs up the phone on you, or stands you up for a date, that urge to call them and give them a piece of your mind, that's an attachment wound crying out to try to feel seen by someone who is making you feel invisible. And that started way before you ever met the person on the other side of that phone. And although their behavior is inexcusable, the moment you pick up that phone to try to force this crappy relationship to work, it is no longer about them. It is about the person who cannot let go of someone who is grossly mistreating them. It's time to stop trying to make crappy partners listen to you and listen to yourself. Not only do you not want this, You don't deserve it. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people, all kinds of people, who also believe you don't deserve the constant short end of the stick when it comes to your relationships. Because you and I are cut from the same cloth, and you and I both know that you are giving far more than you are getting in this relationship or this breakup, in hopes that someday that they'll have an epiphany and realize just how valuable you are. This is only possible once you let go. And by then, you will not miss them, and it is going to be too bad for them. Time to start giving to yourself and get used to being spoiled. Learn how to give everything to yourself that you ever wanted out of another person, and suddenly you'll find you don't need crappy partners anymore. You aren't getting that wonderful stuff from them anyway. Listen to yourself and feel the relief of never being ignored ever again. Show up for yourself and watch how no one who truly matters would ever stand you up. That way, when you do find someone who wants to give you all the love you ever wanted, you can smile to yourself and say, "Thank you. I appreciate it, but I've already beat you to it." And if you want to learn why this breakup is going to be too bad for them, I'll put that video right here. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for